Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rogue Wave podcast, the frequency for all things pop culture and the disruptors behind it. Presented by Rogue Matter, we talk comics, movies, TV, and pop culture with the rogues who create it every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern on Facebook.com/Rogue Matter Podcasts. Download the podcast immediately following the live stream on all major podcasting apps, or go to RogueWavePodcast.com to subscribe on Apple Podcasts. That's wave without an E. Join the movement. Go Rogue, RogueMatter.com. I'm your host, Michael Dolce, joined as always by my co-host extraordinaire, the Lord of the Radio himself, Mr. Hassan Godwin. How you doing, sir?
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's another glorious Wednesday night.
It is glorious. It is glorious because we got to finally conclude the series of WandaVision. What was your initial reaction from the finale? Were you as satisfied? Because your big talking was your big talking point over the last 8 weeks has been like, let's see how it plays out. Did it play out to your satisfaction?
Yeah, it played out pretty much as I expected it to play out. I was actually I don't know what you would call the consensus. I think the show is a success, but I'm actually the opposite of the consensus of like, well, the devil didn't show up, so now I'm disappointed that, I was promised these things. I pretty much expected it to. It was exactly as we speculated it was on the first week.
Yeah. Take out any of the outside world perspective. I'm just curious, like, what was your like? Yes, I know a lot of people were disappointed with the finale for some reason. But you were actually, I wasn't. I thought it was amazing. I thought this finale was fantastic. Like, the final scene with spoilers for anybody, where Agatha Harkness and Scarlet Witch battles and she gets her costume. Like, I'm sitting there going, like, this is a feature film. Like, we're getting the culmination of like what we would have gotten in like a
90s feature film. It's
What's
kind
that?
of like it reminds me of like a 90s feature film. It's like reminds me of one of the X-Men films.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
like
like a 2000s one though, not 90s. You say 90s, but we didn't have good 90s superhero films for the most part, with the exception of like maybe Batman.
Oh, okay.
In terms of special effects, I'm saying.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
But whenever you have people floating around shooting at each other with lasers, it's the 90s.
Yes.
Also Blade was 1998. So
okay,
whatever.
Fair enough.
Anyway,
vampire movie though.
It's the precursor Marvel movie, comic book movie.
Oh no, it absolutely is a comic book movie. But I'm saying in terms of like special effects.
You said there were no good comic book movies in the 90s.
In terms of special effects, you don't have a superhero.
That's not what you said. Never mind. Anyway,
don't listen to what I say. Listen to what I mean.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna. You say what you mean, and then I will listen to what you say. Okay. So anyway, when like I said, when you have people floating around shooting at each other with lasers, like doing Gandalf and Sauron, it can get schlocky, know. I didn't mind it. It was fine. It was a cute twist. I mean, a cute twist. I'm not condescending to it. It was literally a pretty clever.
Are you talking
twist.
about the giant boner?
So anyway, my point is
that's like just. It was extremely comical to have Quicksilver actually not be, or at least on the surface, not be Quicksilver from the X-Men universe. And I mean, look, I love it. I mean, who doesn't love a good boner joke, right? Ralph? Boner? No? You, sir, have no sense of humor. Continue.
I enjoyed it.
What was the cute twist you were talking about? You were talking about the Quicksilver thing.
No, I was talking about the runes.
Oh, yeah. I thought that was good. That was a very good twist as well, too. I thought everything, it worked out story-wise, kind of came together. I thought Agatha Harkness's I almost wish we would have gotten a little more in depth into what like it was one of those like you have power and I want it kind of things, and I always it works as like a motivation, but it also, I don't know, I felt like the emotional depth and the depth that the rest of the show got into, it would have gone a little bit, we might have gotten a little bit more into why she wants the Scarlet Witch's power. I mean, all you had was the opening sequence in Salem, to kind of glimpse what she can do and what she has done before. But there wasn't as much,
I suppose they could have done that, but I mean, how deep do you have to go to explain why one person with powers wants the powers of another person with powers?
You don't. But I just said I for a show that has given us enough depth and kind of, diving into stuff, it felt a little as if they kind of said, okay, here's the motivation, or here's this character, here's what she wants. We're going to give you a scene to just kind of illustrate how she can do it and why, but the why, wasn't quite. I feel like there was more that could have been explored. It didn't need it for me to enjoy the final battle, but one extra little bit would have really cemented it for me, is I guess what I'm saying.
Okay.
But that being said, phenomenal special effects. I mean, this is the amazing part about like the life, like the age that we're in right now, to where you can have a TV show deliver you. I always think back to Buffy, right? To deliver you the kinds of effects that you were hoping for. Buffy, it honestly felt like Buffy to me. This whole series, when all was said and done, felt like Buffy. It felt like they were building up to a big bad. Agatha turned out to be a big bad. There was a cool twist. Her motivations were simple and clear. Because it's kind of in that sorceress, dark elements kind of world. She has the dark hold, like all kinds of, occult references. It really took me back to the Buffy days. It felt like Elizabeth Olsen was Buffy. The whole dynamic really felt like it too. I mean, even just in the strong female protagonist, and she's got issues, but she overcomes them at the end and kind of, saves the world essentially. I know it was a smaller world in just Westview, but it really took me back to Buffy. And the one thing when you look back in Buffy is, boy, if they could do, back then what they can do now special effects wise. I mean, it was almost like having, Buffy was almost like having a 22 episode movie, in the sense of, the story arcs and the characters and the layering. And they did it in 8 episodes and it worked. Like it worked all the way around.
9 episodes.
Oh, 9 episodes. Sorry, 9 episodes. So it was cool. Like I
mean, I did. It wasn't crap like Buffy, but yeah, it was pretty solid. It was. We will dive into
the rise and fall of Joss Whedon next week as we look ahead to Snyder Cut Justice League. But those were my initial reactions on WandaVision. Was it reminded me in a good way of all the things I loved about Buffy. Not that it was a direct, don't.
Yeah, I just don't think it was as bad as Buffy. I really don't.
Oh, we'll have fun. We'll have fun next week. Do you know what we got to do next week? It's back.
I have no clue what we have to do next week.
What month are we in?
We're in March.
What's coming back? We're going to do this next week. We're going to break down March movie madness.
There are no March movies.
No. March Movie Madness is our annual tournament that we've been doing.
Yeah, but there were no movies last year.
It doesn't matter. What did we do last year? We did 90s. We did our bracket of 90s movies. We did our bracket
we're gonna have to specialize again.
Of course.
No, it sucks.
Of course.
The whole idea sucks. The idea sucks. I don't want to do it.
It is one of our most popular segments. We did DC films last
with
year.
With who? I don't care about the audience though. The heck with them.
DCEU films. That was last year. We've done. I got to see what we've done with the Marvel films. I think we've done some. If I recall,
pretty sure we've
covered.
I think
we've done the MCU films. Yeah, we did because I had Infinity War.
The awesomeness that is the MCU.
Yeah, because that was prelude to Endgame. We've done best movie sequels. Remember, we did the only sequels pitted against each other.
Mm-hmm.
We did
I
90s
remember
films. Them. We've done some really good. So next week we're going to have to ruminate on what the topic is going to be, and we're going to have to pick our 8 movies that will also enter whatever it is the topic that we discuss. So that's coming next week. I'm pretty excited about that. And like I said, we're also going to just dive into the rise and fall of Joss Whedon, but because Snyder Cut's coming up, but Snyder Cut actually leaked. Did you see that?
Only very shortly though, for a brief amount of time.
Yeah, but it was like the long-awaited release. This is from Heroic Hollywood. Some users were able to watch the film early on Monday due to an error on the streaming service. They said they could view the Snyder Cut by selecting Tom and Jerry. Quite frankly, I think any parent that went to go select Tom and Jerry and ended up with the Snyder Cut didn't quite get
probably a little upset. Probably a little upset.
And they also thought it was dark and boring. Here's some of the Twitter reaction to some folks who did see it. The CGI finally rivals that of Marvel, and you're gonna love it. That's all I'm saying. No spoilers. Get excited. That is at then Doug said. It's this guy, I guess, apparently found it. They figured it out and cut the feed, but I could say the first hour or so of the Snyder Cut is the best DC film I've ever seen. Okay. So we'll see if it lives up. Let me ask you a quick question. Quote unquote, it accidentally leaked. Are you buying that it accidentally leaked? Was it a technical difficulty or is it a promo tool? In your opinion? We won't know the answer, but I'm just curious. I'm going full conspiracy theory. I don't think it was an accident.
Okay. Sure. Why not?
You're no fun, dude.
I mean, no, because what's the whole purpose of my attitude about all this stuff, about these ridiculous conspiracy theories and speculation? It is what it is. The news is what the news is, right?
Yeah.
If they cut you off in the middle of the film and nobody's really buzzing about it, I've seen a couple of articles about it, but I haven't seen any of the major punditry, entertainment punditry go, I've seen some of it. This was amazing, right? So then it didn't work if that's what they're doing. Also, trying to manipulate the Twitter roulette, it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't work. It never works. Inauthenticity, almost never works because they could sniff it out. I mean, Twitter is a terrible parable.
Oh, it's a wasteland.
But it is very good at getting to the bottom of BS, of things that they believe are not genuine, whether or not they come out on the right side or the wrong side. They know it's not genuine. So, okay, say if they leaked it on purpose, then they're idiots. When they deserve it.
You show them the first hour, and people start getting excited about it.
Are people really excited about it? I'm not hearing anything about it. I'm hearing about the mistake, but I'm not hearing, increased buzz from the fans about, So, sure, why not? I'm sure that's what they intended.
Yeah, I feel it's interesting, right? That they've also announced that they are going back to 6 chapter titles. So I guess they're giving breaks. So I guess it's a 4-hour movie, but it has 6 breaks in it. Because
for some reason they couldn't present it as a series, right? They couldn't break it up and present it as a series.
Yeah. But they have these chapter titles. So back at DC Fandom, Zack Snyder floated the idea of his Justice League cut debuting as a 4-part miniseries in HBO Max instead of as a film. However, things changed along the way, and we now know that we're getting the Snyder Cut in all its glory with an epic 4-hour runtime. While it's back to being a film once again, it will still be broken up into parts like a Quentin Tarantino film. It will consist of 6 parts. The titles were released. This was actually right after our show last week. You have The Age of Heroes, you have change machines, something darker. You have a whole bunch. I actually just went through parts 2, 4, and 6, but it really fascinates me. And this is something too, like when we talk about WandaVision, right? I think one of the successes of WandaVision is that it was released week by week. So much like old school television, you got a chance to kind of ruminate on things. Originally,
it's a success and a detriment to it.
Yeah, and we'll get more into that into your Rogue Rage segment next segment. We'll dive headlong into WandaVision, but I kind of liked the idea of Zack Snyder's Justice League, although I guess it does go counter to what the fans had been clamoring for, which was an actual director's cut, right? Like an actual film cut versus the episodic nature, the episodic.
Yeah, I mean, there's some finagling going on, right? When you take a movie, you take a film that everybody's already seen, right? You recut it, and then you try to turn it into 4 hours worth of weekly content or whatever they were planning to do. That is a lot of manipulation of expectation, of anticipation, that kind of thing. So I'm not so upset that didn't work out. I just want to see the thing in one. There's so much build up to it. There's so much lead into it. Just before they even fully 100% announced they were actually going to do it, when it was just the release the Snyder cut kind of situation. So like, let's just see the damn thing and let's get it done, right? Let's get past it. But so as you say, like, or as you were saying, I'm glad I'm glad we're not going to have to deal with the logistics of that.
Yeah.
But other than that, like, look, everybody asked for this. This is what we're getting. Yeah. Right. Regardless of whether it's good or bad, it was already a bad movie. Right. So people are going to be like, oh, this movie's, people are thinking this movie's going to rock. They're being a little naive. Yeah. People are like, this movie's going to suck. They're being a little glib because it already sucked. I mean, we already knew it sucked. Right. So all it is like, this is a brand new thing. Like this industry, our industry, the industry that we love and that we're following on a regular basis. The reason why we come here every Wednesday night to talk about it is, was for the last year kind of into death throes because we had no content. And so because of that, they made they made a lot of drastic sea changes into how they're going to, distribute the entertainment that we're going to watch. Right. Now you have people complaining that, that Black Widow may only come out in the movie theaters, which apparently they're still in the midst of speculation.
Yeah. Was it Bob Chapek, I think?
Yeah.
He just, Bob Chapek.
Yes, I know. Yeah. I'll get to it. But what I'm saying is that you've got people actually complaining that it's going to come out in the theater instead of in the beginning they were complaining like, I don't really want to watch it streaming. I want to go out. I want it to be an event, right? So obviously things have changed very drastically. Yeah. But the problem that we all have, and we will cover this more in depth, is that we're overinflating everything. Yeah. And we're never looking at the forest for the trees. We got what we wanted with this, and now we're all saying it's gonna be crap, and this is not gonna move us. Well, it didn't move us the first time, the original assertion was, I just want to see what Snyder would have done with it. Yeah. Well, it's not necessarily that Snyder was going to do a way better job. It was going to, because they'd wanted him off the material from the start because they were saying it was too dark, right? Yep. So then they lightened it up and they were like, whoa, we don't like that. Yeah, that's not good. Yeah, let's bring Snyder back. It's a George Lucas thing all over again. So it's a microcosm of the George Lucas phenomenon. It's kind of like the idea of multiple realities in a way, the alternate realities in a way. For many, many years, you would sit there and go, boy, I wonder what would have happened if, right? And you never usually get an answer to that. And you still don't technically get an answer to that. People don't want answers to those questions. No, I don't think that. I agree with you. I agree.
I agree.
They want the prestige from asking the question.
Yeah.
Oh, I just asked a really trippy question. You know, everyone's going to think I'm a big brain because of the question I asked. But when you get the answer and you have to react to the reality of it, right? Yeah. Like if we were saying like, oh man, all we want is a Snyder cut. We got to have the Snyder cut. This is what's wrong with Hollywood today. Is that, you know, they fire a director and then they get a mediocre director to come in and pick it up, and then it turns into crap. We want the original director to come back. So now the original director is coming back, but we've already taken a political stance.
Yeah.
Now so we're not unbiased anymore.
Yeah.
So now we got to live up to it, and almost universally we all default to hate. Like, nah, it wasn't good. We knew it wasn't going to be good. We knew it was going to. So nobody's going to have a nuanced.
You asked me that question though. You asked me how. What was the term you used? It wasn't unbiased or how. Maybe it was. Maybe it was how biased would I be watching the film? As I've been very down on it the last few weeks. Mm-hmm. Whereas I initially kind of got intrigued by the mystery, again answering the question, the what if question. I got excited for that. The idea that he's going to turn it into a mini series originally, I got excited for it. But then hearing more and more of the news surrounding it, I got less and less inflated.
That's a later segment also.
But that being said, I think I can how objective, that was the term. How objective will I be in my review? I'm not looking to hate the film. My initial impression you're not looking to hate
the film, but you've already made sport of the film. You understand what I'm saying? So then now that there's you generally, there's there's Michael Dolce generally who's going to see the film, who's going to watch the film, and for all intents and purposes, objectively watch the film.
Yeah.
But then there's also Michael Dolce, the host of Rogue Rage, who's put his bona fides on the line on purpose because of the film. And so, though I think those two personalities do get conflicted when coming in, and now you're not going to get an unbiased opinion. It's very rarely you're going to come back and say, you know what, I shouldn't have said all those things I said.
Oh, but I do. Of course,
I'm not talking about like, will you do have the integrity to do that? I'm saying you're setting up a narrative. And we all know the dangers of narratives. You're setting up a narrative, right?
Yeah.
This is going to not be good. Same thing. It's a narrative of, the people going into WandaVision. Like, man, how exciting is this possibly going to be? We're just going to see these guys like pretend to be, Desi Arnaz and Lucille Ball, right? Wandering around and with modern day special effects.
Yeah.
And the show goes on 3 or 4 episodes in. People are like, no, I'm really intrigued. I'm genuinely intrigued. You're supposed to be genuinely intrigued, if you're interested in the material in and of itself, before the material has revealed itself to be what it is. Mm-hmm. You're supposed to, these are exactly the feelings we're supposed to have. We're supposed to be intrigued. What we're fighting against was our own biases. I didn't think I was going to be interested in this. I thought this was going to suck. I was going to be able to rail against it as much as it sucked. It doesn't suck. I'm surprised it doesn't suck, right? Then we get to the ending. We get to default to, no, I was right. It sucked. Because it didn't end like I intended it, like I needed it to end.
Again, I think there are different levels though, right? Just like there are different levels in everything in life, right? Like, screaming at somebody or getting upset with somebody versus punching them in the face, right? It's 2 levels of anger, right?
But that's not what we deal in. We don't deal in that kind of level of violence. We don't deal in that level of violence.
No,
we don't deal in those.
I'm just using. Yeah,
but that's your apples to apples. Like punching someone in the face.
But I'm saying there are different levels to everything, right? Like unlike Twitter or unlike the internet, where you have to have one level of, you have to be in one camp or the other. I mean, you can genuinely look at WandaVision and go, probably got the least applause at Comic-Con, like our guest Victoria Rao had said, and I'm not quite sure, but I'll watch it because why not? And then to be like completely, overwhelmed with how great the series ends up unfolding. By the finale, I'm not looking at the finale in any way, shape, or form as a success or failure based on my expectations for it coming in, because there were no expectations. Whereas Snyder Cut, the mountain of hoopla surrounding it prior to it even being announced it puts it into a different level. It's punching somebody in the face. So you've either got to connect and make and knock that guy out cold, or that guy's going to come back and start punching you back. And in this,
you got to become objective about it. You got to be objective. If you can't be objective, then you can't give an objective reaction to it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think you can be objective to it in the sense of watching the film. I'm not going to. My point being is, I'm not going to go into the film being like, well, I'm expecting this to be bad, so I'm going to hate it no matter what. I'm going to come into it. No,
but that's what you've already said.
I don't think it's going to be very good. However, I'm willing to give it a shot and see how it. I
understand that, but I mean, that's not even how you presented that argument. You know, if you said, you know what, I'm a little worried because I'm having a hard time believing it can be any better than whatever. But you were like, nah, I think it's going to suck. I think it's going to be terrible. So there you go. That's not objective. That's the opposite of objective.
That's a prediction, though. I think you can absolutely.
You can't. Yes, and you cannot be objective if you're predicting. That's what I'm saying.
You absolutely can.
You can't.
And in fact, it happens so many times.
Objectivity is unbiased. If you predict it's going to be bad, that's a bias.
If I think it's going to be bad, and by thinking it's going to be bad, make a prediction. It doesn't mean that I still can't go into the film saying, all right, I'm excited to see what this is going to do. It's either going to be wrong.
You can't sell that, though. You can't say, look, look, I have an unbiased opinion about this, even though I've given my biased opinion about this for the last 3 weeks. You can't be like that. You can't be like, look, don't worry. I'm going to go in this with absolutely unbiased opinions of it.
On the March 24th episode.
Oh, dude. You're purposely being obtuse about what I'm talking about. You're purposely doing it.
No, I disagree with you. I don't think I think that statement is a false statement that you still can't, as a human being, go in without a bias.
You've given a biased opinion. How can you claim to be unbiased? That's academic. It's an academic question. How can you claim to be unbiased if you've already given over and over a biased opinion?
I'm biased to the amount of press that has surrounded it. Comparing,
you did not frame it. You did not frame the argument that way.
Compared to other things that have happened, to where you can kind of start reading the tea leaves a little bit and say, you know what?
Reading the tea leaves is bias.
This is a phrase that doesn't actually. I don't mean it to apply literal when I say this. I've seen this movie before, right? Where a movie comes out with a certain amount of hype and then fails to live up to the hype, not because it doesn't deliver what we think is going to happen, but it just turns out to be just a bad film. I think, based on Snyder's track record of DC films that I personally don't think are very strong. I think I agree with you. Man of Steel is probably the strongest he's done in terms of the DC films. And I also go back to Sucker Punch and go back to other films that he's done in general.
Is bias.
I say, you know what? I think this guy's got a track record,
which is bias.
Looking at all this saying, I think this thing's not going to be very good. And the fact that DC executives have called it a cul-de-sac because they don't think it's going to go anywhere. So why would why am I going to
prescriptive analysis at that point? That's prescribed analysis.
I'm analyzing all the stuff around it. That doesn't mean that as a human being capable of being like, I'm not on here. I gain nothing. There is no gain for me personally to come on here and say, well, I told you so, blah, blah, blah.
I'm not talking about it. I'm talking about the nature of the business itself that we're in. There's no possibility of unbiased opinion.
There's no unbiased opinion in anything.
There you go. That's my point.
Yeah, but there's, again, to my point, there's a level of how biased you can be. I literally can't be going into a film saying I'm purposely.
There's a level of how dead you can be. You know, like that's the extent of the logic of that statement. There's levels of dead. There's mostly dead and slightly alive. No.
There's brain dead.
No,
that's a level.
Dead is dead. Yes, and when something is described as dead, it's no longer working anymore. Right? Your body is not dead when your brain is dead. Right, but your brain is only one kind of dead. So dead is dead.
You can revive someone from brain dead.
Can. Yes.
People are in comas.
Yes, you're.
I've already given you. I've already countered your argument.
Your 8.5 minutes of medical school has helped you win this argument. I understand. I understand. Okay.
Let us know what you think. Are you excited for Snyder Cut. We are finally counted down. We're finally there. Can you be unbiased? More importantly, give us ideas for our March Movie Madness for next week. And when we come back, as if we didn't do this,
avoid doing that.
We're diving into WandaVision season finale even greater, but now we're doing it under the Hassan Godwin Rogue Rage segment. So more WandaVision season finale. We'll get into those end credits. We'll get into Hassan's rage over the perception of it. We'll also dive into some other exciting things. All WandaVision.
I ain't that excited about anything.
And I forgot to mention our guest tonight was in Jupiter's Legacy, which is debuting on Netflix. We'll get into more of that when we come back. Welcome back to the Rogue Wave podcast, not the Rogue Rage podcast, the Rogue Wave podcast, the frequency for all things pop culture. Check out Button Smash. Now, Button Smash, I'm going to make an announcement tonight. I don't know if I can, but I'm going to. Is going to be doing a special May the 4th episode. So usually they air on Thursday nights, but that would be May 6th. They're going to air May 4th.
I wonder why. What significance can May the 4th have?
Yeah. I'm starting the buzz train now. That's
just the biased buzz train.
Yes, the biased buzz train now.
The biased buzz train.
We'll talk more about this, but very special episode coming Tuesday, May the 4th. And I'll let people's minds speculate. They will be on the show the week before as well, too. They're going to come on the week before May the 4th to go into depth as to what they're going to be doing. It's going to be very exciting.
Awesome.
Also, like I said, later on in the show, we have Courtney James from Admit One Productions. I can't say the word admit. Like it's Admit One. It's just like Admit One.
Because you got to put the emphasis on the AD,
I have to enunciate
admit.
the ad, like Admit One.
Yeah, it's not admit.
No, admit. I know. I can't. It's like one of those words that I will just forever. I just can't seem to can't seem to come out of my mouth correctly. He's a writer, an actor, a director. He's been making films for like 20 years. He's been doing or making, I guess, more than just films, TV shows, music videos, all kinds of stuff. And he is also a Time Trader super backer. So we're going to try to get as much information out of him as we can about Jupiter's Legacy. It's coming to Netflix. Pretty excited about that as well, too. But first, we're going to go back to WandaVision season finale, really dive into it. But we're going to do it with Hassan's Rogue Rage. All the rage in the pop culture world, brought to you by Hassan Godwin himself, Lord of the Radio. What is your WandaVision season finale Rogue Rage?
It's well, I guess we'll go with rage. But I think it's I honestly think that the entire situation of speculation fever, and this is giving me the opportunity to reiterate my personal bias against speculating. The circumstance involving WandaVision in the ending to where the showrunner himself literally had to come forward and speculate that everyone was going to be disappointed with this series finale. And it was a series finale because there's not going to be a season 2 that anybody knows about just yet, right?
Which it took, to his disdain, it actually did get the lowest rating Rotten Tomatoes, which
Matt Shakeman, right. And why is that? That's because everybody, instead of just taking the material for what it was,
right,
there's no problem with the problem with all of this is the lack of nuance in the activity in and of itself, right? There's no problem wondering, oh man, let me think about how great this ending can be, right? Or let me think about how great this movie is going to be. Let me just sit around while I'm busy doing the ridiculously mundane stuff I do in my real life. When I'm a train conductor, I'm a bus driver or something like that. While I'm on my break, because you shouldn't be really speculating about WandaVision while you're driving a bus in New York City. While I'm on my break,
maybe you could be. Why not?
No, maybe you could, but then you're going to get the results that let's not get into that, right? But let me think about how this. I used to do that when I was a kid. There, when there used to be Saturday morning cartoons, right?
Oh, that's such a good
and thing. That you would see the worst thing that could happen in a Saturday morning cartoon. You're watching something and then they slap on the "to be continued" sign, right? Sure. And it means you're gonna have to wait 7 more damn days, right, in order to see. But especially it was especially 7 because Saturday hadn't even freaking started yet. You were 7 in the morning and Saturday, and you realize, oh, you kidding? I'm gonna have to wait all day Saturday and then Sunday, Monday, all the way into next Saturday to see how this thing concludes.
Yeah,
and then throughout the week, you are busy working on how is this going to conclude itself. How is it going to work? Same thing that happened with us with Endgame, right? We knew everybody was coming back because they're not going to end their multi-billion-dollar franchise, right?
But a little bit downer, yeah,
exactly. I mean, look, it would be the boldest move in cinematic history, but we knew just from a business standpoint, you're not going to do that, right?
No one's going to Andy Kaufman of
and no one's going to greenlight an Andy Kaufman billion-dollar adventure. It's not going to happen. So we knew everybody was coming back. We just don't know how. And to make matters even more complex, we already knew how they had done it in the source material.
Yeah.
Right. We, the people in the know already knew how it all worked out in the source material. So the movie had extra double duty because it had to be good. And it also had to give you something that you hadn't seen. And it also had to make up for all the changes that it already made in the material in the first place. Right.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with all through that year. I was like, how's it going to happen? I'm really excited to see how this happens. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. As long as you are objective enough, and here comes that thing again. And this is not a reiterative dig at yourself. Okay. As long as you're objective enough to say, that's not what I wanted, but I think I can process what I'm being given in a like to dislike ratio on its own, right? I mean, what you're given, you still may not like compared to what you think is good or bad, but it can't be considered as bad because it didn't live up to your speculation. There's still got to be an aspect of gambling in all this. You still have to be excited by the chance of being wrong, right? Yeah. And we're not excited by that anymore. We're not, we don't want to be wrong. We don't want to be disappointed. We want things to be exactly as we predict it will be, right? I don't know why. I don't know whether it's for the prestige of being correct or whether it's because this would be, the rule of cool. Like, this would be extensively awesome if this happened. If this doesn't happen, I don't want to deal with Marvel ever again.
Right.
Well, that's crazy, and that's detrimental to yourself. That's not detrimental to the material. I mean, ultimately, the material is going to take a hit, but WandaVision is not going to. You're not going to convince everybody who just watched for the last 8 weeks that everything they watched was crap. Well, because you didn't get the X-Men at the very end of your series.
Well, it's funny. Right? It's funny you mentioned that. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that too, because a friend of the show, Dave Rosenberg, actually tagged me in a post on Facebook, and it was an amazing article that actually details exactly that. It's from Matt Goldberg over Collider, and the headline was "WandaVision failed to deliver things that were never promised to me." Who wants to watch a show about grief when I'm supposed to be getting sold on future Marvel things? He goes on to say, for months now, I've gone on Twitter and everyone's been speculating. The astrophysicist Monica Rambeau mentioned it has to be Reed Richards, even though there's no script and director John Watts is still working on Spider-Man No Way Home. I was promised by the internet John Krasinski would play Reed Richards, and of course that means Emily Blunt would be Sue Storm, which, by the way, would be an amazing casting job if they did.
Yeah, sure.
Would be an amazing casting job.
A little on the nose, a little too meta, cute. But I mean, it would work. It totally
would work, by the way. So I give thumbs up to that if it happens. Also, because Wanda is dealing with magic, that also means Doctor Strange has to show up, because we know Olsen is part of Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. So Doctor Strange has to be there. Even though it's not till next year, we need some kind of teaser. If you don't tease the next Marvel thing, what are we even doing here? Imagine my rage and disappointment when WandaVision turned out to be a grief drama. Ugh, feelings. What does Wanda's emotional state possibly tell me about whether or not Mephisto is going to come along later? I don't watch Marvel stuff to feel feelings or think about my emotions. I watch them to A, acknowledge comic books, the more obscure the better, so as to reward my efforts, and 2, to tease future Marvel projects at the expense of the one I'm currently watching.
Right.
WandaVision denied us all these great moments that were not promised in any way.
Damn them. Damn them all.
Crafting a story with a strong character arc to explore a universal emotion that resonates deeply with the viewer. Who wants that?
No,
Instead,
nobody
wants to introduce the X-Men. Instead of using the series to introduce the X-Men, I knew I was going to mess up somewhere here. They turned it into a gag about a guy named Ralph Boehner, which, while objectively hilarious, thank you very much, Collider, did not support my fan theory. So the show failed. WandaVision made me look foolish, and all entertainment must support my ego. I really hope Marvel learns from the errors they made with WandaVision, rather than selling us on Fantastic Four or Doctor Strange 2 or the arrival of mutants, things that we have already been sold on and will watch no matter what. WandaVision was all about feelings and characters, and that is unacceptable. I do not watch superhero movies and shows to think and feel. Now, if you excuse me, I need to start theorizing about when we can expect Chris Evans to make a cameo in Falcon and Winter Soldier.
There you go. I do not watch them in a can. I do not watch them, Sam. I am. That's the point, right? That's the point. It's
and again, before you continue, I got to give another shout out, David Rosenberg, for cluing me in on that. That was utterly hilarious and made me.
It's almost like we planned this, though. You know, it's almost like.
Well, no, that's the funny part. We did not plan that at all.
No,
I mean, that literally was just a
Remember,
I don't know who Matt Goldberg is, but you did a great job.
Remember Snoke. You know, that's all I'm saying. For the year leading up to the Last Jedi, it was just nonstop. I was an admin of a bunch of social groups or whatever, and we had to keep kicking people out of the group for Snoke theories. I think Snoke is Mace Windu. I think so, because it became a game in and of itself. Fine, but it gets out of hand, and then what happens is this person turns out to be nobody. It was a speculation that you had in your mind, but it never was anybody.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, now the creators are somehow beholden to live up to that expectation, even though that was not, that wasn't any bit of their intention. I think interactive storytelling is great. I think it's the future of this industry, right? In some way. There's going to be some form of interconnectivity, not even going further than RPG gaming and whatever, where people are literally in the movies that they are watching, right?
Right.
There's going to be some other kind of breakthrough interconnectivity in this stuff, and I applaud it. I'm not saying I'm not a traditionalist by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm talking about getting in the way of your own ability to process the information, the stimuli that you're being given, right? To the point where you're so hell-bent on your own predictions or your own expectations that you no longer can objectively, and I don't use that as a hot button word, you can no longer objectively digest the material you're being given. And then it all starts to become bad, right?
Right.
And then not only that, but you're not sophisticated, not you, the royal you.
Of course,
you're not sophisticated. I'm just making sure.
How dare you, sir?
Yeah, you're not sophisticated enough to even understand that your hatred of this thing is because you're the one who put the expectation on it in the first place, right?
Yeah.
You come out of it like, well, this didn't live up to this. This was no good, not because it wasn't good, but because it didn't live up to some imaginary whim that you had, and that's not good. That's not very good for the mass hive mind that we have. And unfortunately, the way things are, we don't experience things alone anymore. We experience them in the collective, even if we claim we're not, even if we claim we're above it. We do. The first thing we do is, what's everybody saying about this? I like this. Yeah. Even if you are somewhat objective about what you've seen, the first thing you do is go to the trades. What's everybody else saying about this?
I'll confess. Midway through, I'm loving the finale, by the way, and I mentioned that in segment 1. Midway through the big battle scene, though, my mind wandered for a split second, and it wandered to, I wonder if other people are enjoying this or feel this is not what they were expecting. And it did. Like it naturally did. Like I was very curious in a very quick meta moment. And this is not a knock on the content itself that pulled me there. I think it's just we've been home. We live in this meta world. We live in this online world. I think I won't even be experiencing it as much, I think, when we are finally over the pandemic, which looks like, things are trending in the positive direction. We will be, in the coming months, maybe by next year. But I pulled out for a split second. I'm like, gee, I wonder, because this feels awesome to me. It feels like an action movie. And I wonder if people are going to be criticizing it because it's not,
of course they are,
but then I wonder what the overall consensus was. I didn't at any point, though, which I was wrong in this. And see, I told you, I can always come forward and say when I was wrong. I didn't realize that this is the lowest rated, or the lowest reviewed episode of WandaVision just because it didn't give you what you had speculated as to the rest of the Marvel universe.
It gave you what
is the most absurd.
Intended. Yeah, right. It gave you what it intended to give you. Oh, and that wasn't good enough.
And it delivered.
This is Absolutely. The same. This was the same problem from the opposite direction of Age of Ultron, where everyone was like, "I don't want to see a movie that's just going to be the promise of another movie.
Right.
I want to see the content of the movie that I'm watching." Right. So now we've moved on.
Yeah.
We've been indoctrinated into the coming next week
culture. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's no good. I'm telling you, it's no good. I'm telling you, it's an non-subjective. It's an objective bad because it affects our ability to be able to process what we're given as opposed to what we want, right? And that's not good. Those two things are separate for a reason. There's nothing wrong with wanting things. There's nothing wrong with hoping for things. But when your hope and your want not being met precisely the way you have predicted, means that whatever you did get is bad. That's not good. You know?
No, I agree. And I think that is something that the collective, which we've discussed what the collective consensus on the internet really means, which is absolutely nothing.
Yeah,
and this goes back to message board culture. I mean, this goes back to the 90s when the internet and the collective internet discussion boards were relegated to small fandom sects that never infiltrated the mainstream to begin
with. I totally agree with you.
So yeah, I do it tongue in cheek, but again, I think it's pandemic culture. I think because we're so locked down, it's lockdown culture that it's the only thing right now that's got us actually, it's the only thing keeping us distracted. Whereas we used to go to concerts and restaurants and movie theaters and all this other stuff.
Yeah, but everybody was like a prig anyway. People were always being bastards.
Oh, on the internet, yeah. No, I agree.
In general,
no. The manners on the internet have never changed.
But I'm talking about they just had more to feed upon.
Yeah.
I think the weekly thing, I think there's a good and a bad to it, and that's fine. I mean, it's just a thing we're going to have to deal with. I think being connected to WandaVision for the entirety of these 9 weeks has probably been a collective good as opposed to as opposed to a collective bad. I don't think that predicting the future. I don't think that wondering or putting together clubs and getting together and wondering what's going to happen in the future, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's what everybody wants. I think people want that interactivity, right? Yeah. And that they want things trending. They want things going like that. I think, as you do, it's a terrible metric for popularity because it's not true, but it's the numbers that they do have. So they can be expected to do nothing but go with those numbers. I understand that. But I think that we as a collective people need to start to get a little more sophisticated in our expectation ratios, because when you don't get what you want, that doesn't mean that you've gotten something bad.
No, I agree.
There's still an element of surprise to all this stuff. There's still shock and awe. There's still the adventure. I say again, if you knew that Luke Skywalker was coming at the end of Mandalorian, it would not have gone over like that, it would not have been the experience that it was.
I agree.
It wouldn't have.
No,
so
I agree 100%.
That's all I'm saying.
I agree 100%. Real quick, we got about a minute to go before we welcome our guest on next segment. The end credits. Now, this is the thing. I don't mind speculating if it's all in good fun, and I think that's what I do. I think that's what I tend to do. I know you don't like the speculating at all, though. One thing I thought was kind of interesting in those end credit sequences. Actually a couple things. One, as much as I love a good Boehner joke, I was definitely disappointed that on the surface level we did not get the introduction of mutants, or at least it seems as if we didn't get the introduction of mutants. I think personally, they've opened the door now. I think regardless, they've planted a seed that they can go back to and say, look, we did it. Or, that his name really isn't Ralph Boehner, that it's some sort of joke. I mean, look, there's different things you can do to it, right? Where there's they've planted a seed. So I'm not ready to give up and say we didn't get the introduction of mutants, but seemingly, yeah, we didn't get it. It was worth it for the punchline. It was almost like Iron Man 3, where the Mandalorian turned out to be not the Mandalorian, the Mandarin turned out to be an actor, which I actually loved that joke too. I thought it was a funny gag also. But the end credit where she's consuming the Darkhold and she hears her kids. Originally, Doctor Strange was supposed to come out like right after WandaVision. Now we have to wait a year. I'm curious. I mean, look, they've got it all planned out. So I guess it's not necessarily it wasn't how they originally intended, but I guess whatever, due to the unforeseen circumstances of the pandemic, I don't think it has disrupted their plan any. But
this is more than a minute, by the way.
I know. Hearing the kids' voices, though, I was wondering what they were going to do with the kids, because they kind of made it clear that she invented Vision. She invented the kids too. And that's what they did in the comics. But those kids.
There's speculation as to whether she invented them or not, or as to whether, because at the end she does say, "Thank you for choosing me as your mom," right? So she might know that they're actually real beings disguised as her children.
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of cool at the end. I thought, it definitely was I felt a great conclusion to WandaVision in the season finale, but then I like that little like dangling thread that they kind of tossed out there. I thought that was pretty cool. And obviously Monica Rambeau going up to meet Nick Fury.
Was there a question? Were you going to ask me a question?
No, I just, you don't like speculating. So actually I pivoted midway and I said, you know what? I'm not going to ask you a question because you don't like answering. Your answer would have been like, we'll wait and see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. I don't think I would have said it a lot more intelligently than that, but yeah, pretty much what I would have said. I don't know would have been what I said. You know? Oh,
that's true. Okay, yes, that is your go-to. Well, I don't know what's going to happen. I know you don't know what's going to happen.
We don't know. We have to become, like proficient at talking about things we know versus things we don't know.
Yeah.
Right? Because then, if we are honest about what we know and what we don't know, what we say we know can be taken as something we know, as opposed to something we just simply think. Yeah. And that's not, that's not real information. What I think is going to happen isn't real information, other than the information as to what I think. Right? That's all it is.
That was
awesome. What I just explained was awesomeness. You cannot comprehend the awesomeness. I understand.
You know what's awesome? We have a tremendous guest coming up next. He is awesome. Courtney James, Admit One Productions, also Time Trader Superback.
Hey, you said it right this time.
Up next, he's going to discuss Jupiter's legacy without getting fired. That's our number one rule. But he's also going to talk about 20 years of making movies, making TV shows, being a stand-in, being an actor, music videos.
Way longer than a minute.
All kinds of great stuff when we come back. When the girlfriend of Markham, an elite assassin, is murdered, he has one thing on his mind: revenge. But the search for her killer raises more questions than it answers, and sends Markham down a long, dark tunnel into his past. Markham must decide whether he's prepared to risk his life in order to discover the truth. Now appearing on the Rogue Matter website, Hollow Mark. Read it for free. Go to roguematter.com. Welcome back to the Rogue Wave podcast. Joining us tonight, we have a very special guest. Not only is he a wonderful backer of the Time Trader, so he picked the reward where you get to be on the show, but he's a friend, a colleague, and someone who is in the industry. So this is like a triple, like just happy everything, right? Triple win for us having you on the show. Mr. Courtney James, how you doing?
I'm amazing. Thanks for having me. This is fantastic. Been watching you guys for a while, and I'm really excited that I could support your projects and be a part of the show. So this is great, man.
And again, we were talking off camera. Ironically, we're going to have you back on anyway because you, being in TV and film production, worked on an upcoming Netflix show that is going to be extremely exciting for us in the industry, and people are going to be really talking about it, which is Jupiter's Legacy, which is based on the Mark Millar comic series. Tell us everything right now. Everything.
Here, hang on. Let me get my notebook.
Yeah.
Anyways,
spoiler.
It's like a binder that big.
Exactly. Let me
crack this tome open.
So, much as I would love to tell you everything, I can tell you nothing other than it is going to be incredible. It was 7 months of my life. And I just got to see this extraordinary show put together. And I think people are going to be blown away with it. Like this happened back in 2019. So the production value, everything that they are putting into this show, you guys are going to see an incredible experience on screen. So.
Yeah, that's the funny thing about these Netflix shows too, and all the streaming shows. They seem to, record and do all the shooting like way in advance. This one feels like really far in advance. Now,
it's the
result of COVID, do you think, or is that just?
No, you know what ends up happening, like especially a show like this, it's a superhero type genre show. Mm-hmm. They've gone, balls to the wall with effects, they're trying to compete with Marvel and things like that. Wow. And effects, like we took 7 months to put together 8 episodes. So I'm literally on the ground. What I do for your listeners is I stand in on projects. I do stunts. I do background because I'm part of the union. My mainstay of things I love to do is write, direct, and produce through my production company. But this particular project, I was standing in for Ben Daniels, who plays Brainwave.
Okay.
As well as some other actors, because they'll hire like a small group of us, and then we basically, stand in for a bunch of different people. I also photo double, which is kind of a fun thing. So like, say they need to get insert shots or stuff that the actor wasn't able to do because of a long day or whatnot. Sure. These hands, they've turned some knobs. They've opened some doors that, other actors weren't able to do. So
that's fantastic.
I'm quite proud of these weird Where's Waldo moments.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that too, because I know you again as the writer, as the producer, as even just doing camera work. So it's interesting. I didn't realize on this particular instance it was Courtney the human being.
Courtney the human being, the professional mannequin. So it's I've been doing it for about 25 years now, which has been pretty crazy. But as a director and a writer, for me, when you get to be on the floor and you're watching these big professional teams put together these ginormous productions, like I'll do stuff where I have 5 people in my crew. We're talking, there's 100 people, amongst us on the floor putting together, a huge production like this. So it's a real different lens to watch, and it's great training for myself as a director to watch, how others work and how lighting, special effects, things work for these bigger type of productions. And then when you're doing it on the low budget level, you learn tips and tricks.
Yeah.
You know what? I could probably do it this way, create almost the same effect, and it's going to cost me $20 instead of $2 million. You know what I mean? So it's these are the things you kind of learn, and
it's amazing.
these are the things that make me passionate about storytelling, filmmaking, TV. And I'm all over the place. Like I've been doing music videos, commercials, independent films, TV programs, big budget feature films. I think of like your genre stuff. I was in Suicide Squad. I did a bunch of stand-in work on that. I was photo doubling actors. I was shooting guns. I actually have a little cameo. There's a scene where I'm sitting at the table. It was in Washington, D.C., and Viola Davis kind of introduces the Enchantress. Sure. So I'm one of the dudes sitting at the table that gets kind of blown away by, but it was incredible. It was 3 days. We're sitting there. David Ayer's, filming it on 35 millimeter film. Sure. So it's taking a lot longer to kind of film, but you're with all these amazing actors watching them act. And we're talking like, we're doing like, to get all the takes and angles you need to do, you're sitting there doing 20 to 50 takes, of the scene. So you're sick of it by the end, but it's kind of cool, a year and a half later, seeing it up on the big screen and seeing how it all kind of comes together. Especially some of the gun scenes, like those scenes when they come at them, like there's those weird, I don't even know what the hell they were. There are these monsters that kind of go along the walls and they're just blasting. Yeah. I got to be one of those guys. They put a fake beard on me. The stunt guys, because of the union rates, are too expensive after a certain amount of days, and they don't get all the footage. Okay. So they'll bring people in like myself that are like special skills, so they don't have to pay us as much, but they bring us in. It's great. We still get paid very well.
I mean, look, yeah.
And we shoot guns for 2 weeks. Like I'm talking unloading serious artillery. And it's just like, you're sitting going, this is my job.
But that's exactly wild. What I was thinking. So, like, how do you even get into something like that? Right. We got to talk about the whole production company, Admit One Productions, and we'll get into all that. But I want to know, how do you get into that specifically? Like all these like nuanced jobs.
I originally wanted to be an actor. I thought that's what I wanted to do. My first gig was my late teens. I was in university. First audition, I get it. It's a lead in a Hootie and the Blowfish music video. The song's called "I Will Wait," and it was the weirdest first experience because they filmed a little in Toronto and then they filmed the rest on Edwards Air Force Base in California. So they fly me down for 5 days. Wow. I'm a fighter pilot. I'm filming where they did Top Gun, Armageddon. Sure. I'm sitting in like F-16 fighter planes. And it was just like the weirdest way to be introduced to the scene. You're like, oh my God, yeah, I made it. And it's like, yeah, right. Okay. So, and then I had a little role going, and then it was, crickets, and then and then nothing's kind of going on for a while. But you start doing other jobs and starting to explore other things going on within the little production bubble. So that's why I started standing in. And then that's where my passion for writing and directing started to really kick in, because I started to get to watch what they were doing with more detail and passion. I always knew I wanted to be in this industry. Yeah. I always knew I was a storyteller. But, at the beginning, I think the acting thing, just, I don't know, for whatever reason, that was the first steps in to the industry. But I've done it all. Like I've PA'd, I've gripped, assistant directed. I've done what you need to do to kind of, make a career in this industry. And it's word of mouth. It's you build relationships. This industry is all about relationships.
That's like every industry, right? Like people don't really understand that you can hear that term, like, oh, you need to build relationships, but I don't think people kind of grasp it. I know I didn't grasp it, when I was first starting out, and sometimes you're in a job and you're like, who cares? Like, why am I wasting my time doing this? Or this isn't my passion, or this isn't. Yeah. But you meet other people and they all kind of go off and they kind of do their own thing.
Yeah.
But they remember you, and they remember either good or they remember bad, right? Like, and how you kind of approach that. And that's one of those things, that seems to always strike with it.
Definitely.
So we talked about the stand-in stuff for you, but I want to talk more about the passion stuff.
Yeah. Well,
you're the founder of Admit One Productions, right? Admit1.ca.
Yeah, admit1.ca, like a ticket, admit one kind of thing. And I've been doing productions now. I formed the company back in 2003. So it's been kind of a whirlwind. We've done a lot of different things. Like we started doing corporate stuff. We did some music videos. You start doing indie films. I started making my own stuff, and we a mixture of stuff. So a lot of times you're doing proof of concepts to pitch networks and things like that. So I've shot a lot of pilots. My biggest, I would say, company and personal accomplishment comes with this documentary that we produced called The Global Groove Network. And this weirdly became 7 years of my life. And it's a documentary about how music shapes identity and how we all have a soundtrack to our lives. And I told this story through the lens of electronic music because I was heavily kind of in the scene back in the 90s. And in Toronto, rave culture exploded during the 90s. So like huge warehouse events, 20,000 people going. There was one specific party that I document in the film that was kind of the place where I just kind of like, connected to the music. I even DJ'd for about 9 years of my life. And that was kind of another angle to the connection because I was in university, but I was doing more kind of top 40 stuff. But I got really more into that underground house music vibes. So to make a long story short, this documentary, we tried to pitch it to MTV. We shot a pilot. We got it, it went up the chain.
Yeah.
It looked like things were going to go. This was back in like 2005 and it was before kind of the industry, like dance music was still a little underground. It was weird. Like I was pitching executives. I'm showing them Ultra Music Festival. We went down to Miami and I followed this DJ by the name of DJ Dan, who's kind of my guy. He's from LA. He's in that kind of California scene, but he was getting hot again. Anyways, we followed him down for 48 hours, went to 4 parties, and we're ranging from 100 people to, he played the main, one of the stages at Ultra. So there was like 18,000 people, he went on after David Guetta, before David Guetta blew up. And just to kind of show where he fits in the kind of realm of DJs. But the executives were watching this crowd. They're fucking losing their minds. Huge crowd, bing. I know. And they tell me, well, we don't think there's an audience for it. And I'm just like, and you don't know how to respond. You're just like, oh my God. So anyways, I was heartbroken, shocked, but we had this amazing pilot. So I was like, I am finishing this. And we worked through it. It took to about 2012, but we ended up selling it to CBC here in Canada, Hulu. We got it distributed. I ended up breaking even, but this was the crazy experience. Like we 8 credit cards maxed out. We were lucky enough. A couple people helped us with some financing that came on as producers. We did a Kickstarter campaign right when Kickstarter started. And what was weird too, in Canada, I had to get a friend who lived in LA to be my money guy because we couldn't collect the money. And I needed $13,000 to color correct. And also what was even screwed up during when I was filming this, the whole HD digital age was changing.
Oh, that's right.
I started shooting on this camera. It was called a DV100. And we were still on tapes, and then you transfer the footage, but it just had figured out 24p like a frame rate. Anyways, obsolete camera. I pushed like this camera. Oh my God, it's hilarious. Hang on one second. I keep this camera on my bar, and because I can never use it again. But I bought this, and I thought
it's a monument.
and I thought I'd made such a good investment, and it was obsolete in a year. But I said, fuck it. And I filmed the whole camera on it. It probably cost me more money to finish the movie because I had to HD transfer all the footage to sell it.
Wow.
It was just, but this has seen a lot of clubs all over the world. You have no idea.
That'll be the instrument of.
Yeah, we went everywhere. And
that'll be the instrument of something in the future. You'll be able to do something with that. It'll become important in the future for you.
I hope. I hope so. I'm gonna. Yeah, it'll be like some like retro movie or something.
It'll be, and you're going to be the only one who has that camera, and then you're going to be the salvation of whatever project that is.
Oh my god,
that's how that's going to work.
I found all the tapes recently because we were cleaning up. Everything's digitized, but I have these bags full of these little tapes it's crazy though. There's footage there. Like there's these clubs that they're done. They're closed. And especially with COVID, there's clubs that are never going to exist. I have all this weird footage, like hundreds of hours. Cause it was like 7 years of like,
you could start a virtual room right now
and make a documentary on the way club life used to be before the pandemic and now after.
Well, my goal is I will revisit the Global Groove Network. We've done 2 films already that fit under this, umbrella. DJ culture umbrella.
Yeah.
And I love the idea because I was at a crossroads when I did the movie. I was 30. I'd just come out of a relationship. I ended up going back to waitering. Like it was a whole, like from 22 and you're 30. And it was like and I had to move out. I broke up with this girl. So I was like, I felt like I was 22 again. And I had found the records from when I was raving, and that's what kind of brought on. And then I went to a party I hadn't gone to, and like I stopped raving for 8 years, and it was just like a whole awakening. So I would love the idea to go back to it when I'm like 65, 70. Obviously the pandemic's happened. Who knows? We'll be dancing in fucking bubbles by then. I have no idea. So it could be a really cool, interesting look at what happened, but we'll see. I know we're getting off track here. But
no, this is all like really good stuff. We got to get you on our other podcast that we just started at the network, which is Content and Consequences. Jordan Gelber, she'll interview you. Fit. This is like a match made in heaven for season 2.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's so much more story too. Like it's like I'm just nutshell there. So
aside from You've got a couple other series that you have been working on, but now you've dove into. I'm just making up words.
He's divined
into the audio drama world too, because now you have the Admit One Radio Hour. Talk to us about that.
This is a really exciting format that I've been really like. It's to play in it has been incredible. I'm a big audio guy. I love audio experiences. I like, especially nowadays, the way technology is, like when you can close your eyes and feel like you're there.
Yeah.
That is the kind of experiences that I want to create with these stories. So I decided to just say, let's create a channel. It's called the Admit One Radio Hour. We're basically doing different genre type programming that'll be like 4 to 6 episode type seasons. They run about 20-25 minute episodes, but yeah, it's old school. It's like you're basically it's audio TV, but we really enhance the experience with creating an immersive atmosphere. And right now we've got a couple comedies and a horror that are playing. We have a drama that's going to be coming up next month, and I've got all these other things kind of lined up, and it's going to be this slow burn of excitement that I'm tinkering away at, and we've had some great responses on SoundCloud so far, weirdly enough, for audiobooks, because that's not normally the place to go, but we're available everywhere, like so Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud. If you look up the Admit One Radio Hour, you'll find us, and you'll find some wild stuff. I promise you.
You know what's funny is the rebirth of audio, not just in podcast form, but now Clubhouse, the app, that thing is like taken off. I mean, it was one of those like secrets for like 10 minutes, and then all of a sudden it's just you go on there. So it seems like people want to communicate, A, and B, I think, this text culture that we live in right now, I think there's a need to actually, hear another human being and communicate with another human being, right?
You cannot get away. Like you need that human connection. That's where real, meaningful conversation comes from. It's like, even now, us, like if we were all in a room chatting,
totally different.
The energy would be even higher.
Yeah.
It's just, there's something about that. And I think obviously right now we're craving it even more because of the pandemic.
Sure.
Like, it's weird. I feel oddly more connected than ever, because I'm like, I'm in Toronto. You guys are,
we're over in New
States, in New
yeah.
York. And like, this is kind of the norm. I've been talking to a lot of people like around the world, which is really cool. But at the same time, it's like, are we ever going to meet?
Yeah.
When are we going to meet?
Yeah.
Like, we have no clue.
Yeah.
I was going to do a swear word there, but I held back.
We're already explicited. It just is what it is. Real quick, tell us about the art of mindful storytelling also, which is something that you and your wife do together.
Yes. The pandemic. Thank you. This is one of the great things for us that came out of this. We're both kind of teachers by nature, and we're at that point where we wanted to share with the world what we do, and being a storyteller. And my wife also has kind of a corporate background. Like, she's been a VP at very high levels. We wanted to give back to the entrepreneurial world. So we created this program called The Art of Mindful Storytelling. And mindfulness is another layer to my wife. She's, a certified teacher in mindfulness and self-compassion, which is something that I've been kind of learning as I go over the last couple of years through her lens. But like, taking both kind of our skills and meshing them together, this 10-week course has been just this incredible experience to create for entrepreneurs, to kind of help them level up their marketing skills, their branding skills, and just learn how to kind of tell their stories to the world. Because I think right now, a lot of entrepreneurs and just everyone in general, we have to pivot. We're having to kind of reinvent ourselves, and that can be really tough sometimes. And we're trying to fill in those blanks to kind of help people realistically, look at the world in a certain way and look at their business through a certain lens. And it's been exciting. We launched in January. We had 16 students in our first round of
that's great.
class. And we have people like from Denmark, the UK, California, Dallas, even New York, Toronto. So it's been really cool kind of bringing all these different personalities and different types of jobs together, and helping them just kind of reinvent themselves and be this support system through this kind of program and methodology we've created. So I'm really excited about it. And the response has been fantastic. When you put something together and you're just kind of like, yeah, we'll see. But then I was just like, yeah.
That's it.
That
accurately explains beep, beep, this ding, podcast.
Ding. I'm ding, 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 ding. I'm not excited about it. So I'm
no, not at all.
No.
Where can people check out The Art of Mindful Storytelling?
You can check it out online. It is literally theartofmindfulstorytelling.com. So,
and admit1 is admit1.ca.
Yeah, all spelled out. ADMITONE.ca.
Well, Courtney, we're going to have you back on the show in a couple months. They announced Jupiter's Legacy. We've been keeping you. We got you, and we got Tyler Main in our in our back pockets here, waiting. We've been waiting for like a year and a half for this to come out. So we're like,
well, there you go. We're gonna get like completely different perspectives. That's
I know.
What's kind of cool about it.
Yeah. So we're definitely gonna have you back on, and definitely you guys should check out the Admit One Radio Hour. Check out admit1.ca, and all that fun stuff next week.
Art of Mindful Storytelling.
And the artofmindfulstorytelling.com.
There we go.
That's our show for tonight. Next week, we're gonna be previewing the Snyder Cut, which is coming out, the Justice League. It's gonna be pretty excruciating. We're finally here, but we got Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Are you guys excited about it?
I am. He's not. I'm looking forward to it. He's being pessimistic about it.
I'm looking forward to ripping this thing to shreds. In 2 weeks is what I'm looking forward to.
I have hope.
Yeah, I know. He doesn't understand hope. It's a
complete
difficult word for
complete
him.
role reversal for how our dynamic usually goes here.
Oh, I got hope. I just don't. I don't wear it on my sleeve. That's all.
I feel it.
Don't you worry.
Well, I'll definitely tune in to see.
Yeah.
What you guys say about it.
You tune in and we'll get your take in a couple months from now. After the dust is settled. I'm hoping that my lowered expectations means a better product at the end.
I think in the end, getting to tell a longer story might be in their benefit, but we'll see.
In the end, it's just something new to watch. You know, if nothing else, it's new content to watch. That's totally within our perspective enthusiasms, right? Yeah. So why would you automatically doomsay it? That's what I wonder, but we'll deal with that later.
We'll deal with that.
We'll deal your tendency to be totally wrong later.
We'll deal with that next week. We'll see you guys then.
All right.
Rogue Wave.